old woman denied entry at fallen soldier's funeral, but a shocking recognition changes everything. Ho ho! Clara stood at the edge of the small town cemetery, the cold wind tugging at her faded jacket. A worn emblem shimmered in the sunlight, an old military patch that told tales of bravery and sorrow. She had come to pay her last respects to a soldier, a boy she used to know as her son. Yet here she was, heart pounding, as the family warded her off like she was a ghost. The funeral gathered like dark storm clouds above. Funeral wreaths, whispered prayers, and muffled sobs, creating a symphony of grief. The family, faces etched with sorrow, huddled around the casket. A young woman, Emily, her eyes brimming with tears, caught sight of Clara's jacket and recoiled. Who was this woman that dared to trespass on their pain? But there was something familiar in Clara's eyes, a flicker of recognition, the ghost of a secret long buried. Clara's trembling hands clutched her jacket tighter, fiercely. She stepped forward, ready to push Clara away. Clara stood frozen, tears threatening to spill. Memories surged within her. Laughter shared, a child's tiny hand held in her own, and the day he walked out of her life, leaving only silence and regret behind. Emily's eyes darted between her family and Clara, confusion knitting her brows. Something clicked in her mind. The emblem! Could it really be? Suddenly, the atmosphere around them thickened with tension, each breath feeling charged with unspoken words. "Wait!" Emily called, stepping towards Clara. "Who are you?" Clara could barely find her voice. "I knew him. I knew your... my son!" She stammered, the weight of her confession simmering in the air. Gasps erupted among the grieving family. Stunned faces turned towards the old woman who had come from the shadows of their lives. As Clara spoke, Emily's resolve wavered. "He was lost to us," she breathed, pain almost bending her small frame. But Clara's presence connected the broken chains of their shared history. Clara's heart raced between fear of rejection and the hope of forgiveness. The family looked at their fallen soldier's casket, and the whispers of the past began to echo through the cold air. Meanwhile, just a few feet away, another family member lurked, resentful and ready to unearth the secrets they had buried deeply. "We can't let her taint his memory," the relative hissed, eyeing Clara like she was a storm threatening to upend their fragile peace. Then came a rustle as a soldier's war journal fell from the casket. The tension was palpable, as if the very air swelled with unanswered questions, each pulse like a drumbeat of uncertainty. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without any notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're here, hit that powerful like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Emily stepped closer, heart racing, eyes darting between Clara and the casket. The air felt heavy, each second stretching out, thick with unresolved feelings. Clara's trembling hands revealed a story etched in her eyes. Years. Ooh. Emily asked, her voice a fragile whisper that barely broke the tense silence. Clara leaned in, emotions swirling. I was there on the day he left. Her voice cracked. I never stopped loving him. Gasps rippled through the family. Clara had expected the anger, the rejection, but unimaginable pain twisted inside her heart. She could see the hurt shimmering in Emily's eyes, and in that moment, the walls between them felt so thin, so fragile. But just as the tension reached its peak, another voice broke through. Enough of this! You think the man we buried today would want you here? It was a man, angry and bitter. His fists clenched tight at his sides, veins bulging in his neck, the very embodiment of rage. You don't get to ruin this for us. Let her speak. Emily found her voice, standing tall against her own family. Clara couldn't believe it. Fate, perhaps? A flicker of hope sparked amidst the chaos. What did you guys think happened? She's a part of his story. It felt like the ground shifted beneath Clara's feet, and she clutched her jacket tighter. But then, without warning, a distant rumble interrupted their turmoil. A low, powerful sound pierced the air, drawing everyone's attention away. The crowd shifted, nerves flaring, whispers crackling like wildfire. And then it happened! A sudden flash! Bright, blinding! The sky split open, followed by the horrifying crash of thunder, as if nature itself was protesting the injustice before it. The wind howled, sending whispers of apprehension through the gathered mourners. An ominous shift began, as if the very essence of their sorrow was rising to the surface. The casket shook violently, unsettling everyone around. Confusion replaced by sheer terror. In a heart-stopping moment, the lid of the casket flew open with a force that seemed to defy gravity. People screamed, and some stumbled backward, seeking refuge from the chaos. Clara's heart raced. Was this some sick joke? Was the universe mocking their grief? But then, something extraordinary happened. From within the casket, a figure began to stir. Who was it? Another soldier? A ghost from the past? The shock froze everyone in place. Emily's breath hitched, and she took a cautious step forward. Clara was paralyzed, heart pounding loud in her ears. The figure sat up, confusion etching its features. It looked around, eyes wide open, searching desperately for familiarity. What happened? Came a weak voice, heavy with sleep, yet jarring amidst the chaos. Time ground to a halt. Was it really him? Could it be? Clara felt her breath catch in her throat as the family's reactions morphed from terror to raw, unfiltered disbelief. Another life, believed lost, had somehow returned. Suddenly, the painful history Clara had clung to began to unravel. The past didn't just linger, it came crashing back, and with it, the very foundations of the family's grief threatened collapse. Desperation and hope twisted together into a single potent blend. "Is this?" Emily whispered, as her world shifted beneath her. The question hung in the air, heavy and potent. What did this mean for Clara? For Emily? For the soldier who had been caught in the fray? Answers danced just out of reach, leaving cold breaths of uncertainty in the air. Emily's voice trembled. Is this? The air buzzed with disbelief as the figure blinked into focus. It was him, the boy she had loved, the soldier she thought was lost forever. But just as the relief washed over her, something shifted in the atmosphere. A crackle of tension running through the crowd like electricity. Wait! Wait! A voice shouted from the back. Sharp, accusing. That's not him! Eyes turned in confusion, zeroing in on the source. A woman, dark hair pulled tight into a bun, burst forth from the cluster of mourners. You're all fools! That's not the soldier we buried! This is a trick! Her voice, tough and jagged, sent ripples of doubt through the air. What do you mean? Clara whispered, confusion etching deeper lines on her weathered face. She couldn't breathe. Something was wrong. He's alive! No! The woman snapped, her anger igniting the fire of tension. That boy was lost. He died months ago. This is someone else. Gasps echoed as the family members shifted uncomfortably, grappling with the fresh wave of disbelief. Emily's face blanched. You're lying! Tears streamed down her cheeks. He's right there. That's my brother! Your brother! No! Your brother is dead! The woman advanced, eyes wild with desperation. Only he was the one who found the body. He's not your brother. He's pretending. Panic surged. The figure in the casket stirred again. He blinked, eyes foggy as he struggled to grasp the chaos unfolding around him. What's going on? He looked lost, disoriented, and still trapped in a nightmare. No! Emily cried, a ragged edge in her voice. You're not! You're here! You came back to us! The woman stepped closer, her voice cutting through the rising din. Listen to me. You don't know who you're dealing with. All of this, it's been a cover-up. A cover-up that started with a lie. Clara's heart raced. A cover-up? The words floated like smoke in the cold air, thickening the tension, suffocating the gathering. The whispers grew louder, doubts intertwining like thorns among the flowers of grief. Who are you? Clara managed, voice shaking. What do you know? The woman glared, her lips curling. You don't remember? I was there too, with him. The truth is buried just like he is. I know the real story. Suddenly, the soldier's expression shifted, confusion morphing into something darker. What truth? He rasped, fear flashing across his features. What do you mean? The crowd leaned in, holding its collective breath. Clara felt the weight of the world on her chest. Tell us, what happened? The woman drew a deep breath, her jaw tightening. There was an accident. There's a whole mess that was swept under the rug. Lies to protect those who weren't supposed to come back. And what you found in that casket isn't your brother. It's the shadow of the man he could have been. Gasps rippled through the mourners again, shock glinting in their eyes. The soldier flinched, trembling like a leaf in a storm. Reality splintered. Emily's hands clenched. No, this can't be true! But doubt twisted its way into each heart, rich with years of unshed tears. What had they buried? What truths lay shrouded beneath loss? Clara's gaze fell on the casket, now looming ominously in the growing storm, threatening to reveal a past hidden in heartache. And as the wind howled around them, The very essence of their grief began to shift, transforming into something they hadn't prepared for. "We have to find out," Clara breathed, finding a new resolve. The truth must come out! Time was no longer on their side. As the sky darkened and heavy rain began to fall, the question echoed like a heartbeat. What secret had they been hiding? What price would they pay to uncover it? As the wind howled around them, Clara's heart raced, the raw weight of unanswered questions hanging thick in the air. "The truth must come out," she breathed, gripping her jacket tighter, a sudden surge of determination washing over her. The soldier continued to blink in confusion, trying to piece. The crowd was restless, filled with a mix of disbelief and fear. The tension palpable. Emily's eyes were wide, darting between the soldier and the angry woman. "What do you know?" she insisted, her voice trembling yet firmly resolute, fueled by an unexpected strength. The woman's face transformed, shadows crossing her features. "You think the truth will save you? You have no idea what you're asking for." Her words cut sharply, piercing through the storm of emotions swirling among the mourners. But then, in a moment that felt like the world stilled, the soldier's eyes met Clara's, flickering with recognition. His brows furrowed. Did you know me?" he whispered, voice hoarse, searching for familiarity in her sorrow. Suddenly the ground rumbled underfoot, a low, grumbling sound that echoed across the cemetery like a warning. Clara stumbled, heart racing. What was happening? Fear coursed through the crowd, and a few took a step back, unsure of the earth's sudden unrest. But it wasn't the earth that shifted. It was the other woman, the one filled with rage. In an instant, her voice pierced the air like a knife. "This is all a lie!" she shouted, eyes blazing with an unsettling fury. Everyone turned to her, confusion morphing into dread. "You think he's returned? You think he's the same man?" Her laughter was chilling, harsh against the pattering rain starting to fall. "He isn't, because he never existed to begin with." Gasps echoed around them, a visible wave of shock rippling through the mourners. Emily staggered back, disbelief written all over her face. "What do you mean?" she cried, voice breaking. "What are you saying?" But before she could respond, the soldier looked up, his face a mask of horror. "What do you mean I never existed?" Panic laced his voice. He gripped the sides of the casket, confusion twisting his features. With steady resolve, the woman pushed forward, eyes fierce. "You were part of a cover-up, an experiment gone wrong. They replaced him the day he died with someone else. Someone like you." Her every word struck deep, igniting wild whispers as the family looked back and forth, grappling with what felt like the unraveling of their entire world. Clara's mind raced. "What do you mean, replaced?" "How could they?" she gasped, trying to comprehend the weight of such a claim. "How could they?" the woman echoed with fierce bitterness. They thought no one would question a story that resonated with grief. They thought they could bury the truth and build a new past on lies. Her voice trembled with fury, eyes flashing with a fire that matched the chaotic storm overhead. Suddenly, the air crackled with tension as thunder rolled ominously. The soldier's confusion deepened, eyes darting between the faces surrounding him. "What's happening?" he cried out, and Clara could see the fear gripping him tightly, like a vice. But just then, before Clara could assure him that everything would be okay, the ground shifted violently beneath them, and in a shocking breath, the casket lid slammed shut, trapping the soldier inside, all at once, as if the earth itself was erasing the truth he represented. "No!" Emily screamed, lunging towards it. "Let him out!" But the moment froze as the storm erupted into a blinding flash of lightning, illuminating the cemetery in stark relief, shadows dancing crazily against the falling rain. Everything felt out of control, spiraling into a maw of chaos. "I don't understand," Clara whispered, fear tightening her chest, realizing the truth might be darker than she ever feared. What secrets had they truly buried? And why was the soldier's return shrouded in such horrifying mystery? As the echoes of thunder faded into an eerie silence, the only sound left was the pounding of her heart, anxiously chasing the shadows of an uncertain future. As the storm raged and the thunder cracked, the weight of the moment pressed down on Clara like a suffocating blanket. She could hardly breathe. Fear. But was she prepared for what might arise? Her gaze flicked to the soldier, still trapped in the casket, confusion deepening in his eyes. Emily was scrambling to pry the lid open, desperation spilling from her like a leaky faucet. "Just hold on!" she shouted, her fingers fumbling at the edges. But the soldier looked terrified. "Why am I here? What's going on? What truth?" he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos, fear coursing through him like electricity. The crowd seemed lost, pulled between the storm above and the unraveling reality before them. Then there was a deep rumble, louder than thunder, a sound that vibrated through the very ground beneath them. The earth trembled like it was caught in some primal grievance. Clara felt her heart race, pounding in her chest like a drumbeat. Suddenly, from the right side of the casket, a figure emerged from the shadows, unflinching in the face of the storm. A man with wild hair and a frayed uniform stepped forward, eyes sharp and breathless. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice cutting through the rain like a knife. Clara recognized him, someone from her past, someone who had walked a path filled with secrets. "Daniel?" Clara's voice was barely a whisper. He took a step forward, rain-soaked and wild-eyed. "You have to listen. He's not who you think he is," he shouted, his words crackling like static. The crowd gasped, confusion morphing into panic. "What do you mean?" Clara pressed, heart racing with a desperate hope. Daniel pointed a trembling finger at the soldier. "He's a clone, a replacement. They made him the moment the real soldier died." A collective gasp surged through the crowd, shock rippling like a wave. Clara felt the ground beneath her shift, emotions tumbling like leaves in the wind. "What? How could you—" "Listen!" Daniel interrupted, his voice urgent. "They used the body for an experiment to replace the lost with something fabricated, better, cleaner, less human." His words were harsh, edged with the truth that threatened to unravel everything they believed. The soldier's eyes grew wide with dawning horror. "I'm a clone?" he stammered, each word dripping with confusion. "What does that even mean?" Emily stumbled, heartbroken. No, you can't be. It's impossible. Her voice cracked under the weight of betrayal as she stepped back, hands trembling. Yes, Daniel asserted, stepping closer. You have to understand. They took the memories, stitched them together like a patchwork quilt. He's been living in the shadow of a man who didn't survive. They created him to hide the truth about their failures, about what really happened. Heavy silence fell. The rain poured down, soaking their deepening despair. Clara felt sick, unsure whether to comfort the soldier or shield Emily from the truth. Everything she thought she understood was collapsing, imploding under the weight of what Daniel claimed. What if it was true? What about his emotions? His memories? Clara shook her head. That's not possible. It is! Daniel's expression shifted to sheer urgency, desperation spilling over. The memories feel real, but they're just echoes. You can't trust what you think you feel. Emily's face paled, the weight of reality settling like cement blocks on her shoulders. You're lying! No! Daniel shouted, his voice hoarse. Ask him. Ask him what he remembers before waking up. Before the casket. The air grew thick with disbelief and pain, each second stretching longer and heavier. The soldier looked lost, eyes darting between them all. What if I'm just a shadow? His voice broke, trembling with fear of his own existence. Clara's heart sank. The grounds beneath them trembled again, as if the earth itself was echoing the turmoil of their souls. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, lightning struck, splitting the sky wide open, illuminating the scene in a flash of brilliant white. In that blinding moment of confusion, everything shifted. The casket rattled violently, sending a tremor through the air. No! Clara screamed as the lid flew open again, this time with unyielding force. And there, caught in the midst of the chaos, another figure emerged. The crowd gasped collectively, eyes wide, as they recognized the familiar face, now stepping out, drenched and filled with anguish. The real soldier, looking not a day older than the last time they'd seen him. The world stilled, confusion erupting into chaos. Questions surged like a tidal wave, spilling over their lips. Clara's heart raced, confusion twisting her stomach. Who were they really standing before? The soldier glanced between the figures, uncertainty weaving through. What's happening? Am I? And just like that, two worlds collided, leaving everyone's future hanging by the faintest thread. With the storm still roaring, Clara felt her breath hitch. Nothing made sense anymore. The truth was no longer a simple path forked by loss. It was twisted and tangled, drenched in shadows they could no longer ignore. The soldier blinked into the stormy sky, confusion twisting his brow. It felt like the world around him blurred in a haze of disbelief and fear. Clara stood frozen, heart racing, as she took in the sight of him, so familiar, yet transformed by the revelation hanging over them. The woman's accusations echoed like gunshots through the gathering crowd, igniting a fire of panic. He's a clone, a replacement. The words landed heavily, transforming grief into chaos. But as quickly as the chaos erupted, it quieted, the realization hitting everyone like a wave crashing down. He shook his head as if trying to clear away the fog. I don't understand. The soldier's voice trembled, tears glistening in his eyes. I'm really here, aren't I? Are you? Daniel shot back, eyes wide with alarm. You think you know who you are? You can't trust anything about yourself. Emily stumbled backward, horror dawning as if the ground beneath her was crumbling. This is insane, she whispered, shaking her head, clutching her arms against the wind. You're my brother! You're back! You came back to us! And then, just like that, the atmosphere shifted. The sky darkened further, a fierce rumble of thunder echoing ominously. The world felt close to breaking apart. And for a split second, Clara's heart raced with panic. It felt like fate was building to something terrible. Suddenly, just as the wind howled through the cemetery, the soldier's expression shifted. Alarm flashing across his features. What if I'm not real? He shouted, shaking. What if? Before he could finish, an ear-splitting sound. It shattered the air, a deafening crash that surrounded them. A bolt of lightning split the sky, illuminating the darkest corners of their fears. And then it happened. The ground beneath Clara's feet crumbled with a thunderous crack, as if the very earth was shaking in protest. People screamed, stumbling backward, hands grasping for anything to hold on to. Faces twisted in disbelief as the ground opened, swallowing part of the casket whole. No! Clara screamed, lunging forward, but it was too late. In an instant, chaos erupted, the gaping hole consuming both the soldier and parts of their history, like secrets dragged into the void. The casket tilted precariously, and Clara felt herself teetering on the edge. But it wasn't just the casket that it felt as if memories, truths, everything they had held dear began to unravel and be sucked into that unseen gulf of mystery. And just when panic reached a fever pitch, a figure appeared at the edge of the crater. Drenched and covered in mud, another soldier emerged. A woman brandishing a frayed journal, eyes wide with urgency. "Stop!" she shouted, voice piercing through the chaos. "Who are you?" Clara gasped, heart racing. "I'm the one who sent him here, the one who can connect the pieces." She gestured wildly to the soldier. "The truth is deeper than any of you realize. They never meant for him to survive this long. You were all pawns in a game you can't understand." Gasps echoed through the crowd, confusion thickening the air. "Game?" Daniel stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean? Who are you really? I can't explain now," she cried, glancing back toward the gaping hole that seemed to pull her closer. "But everything, every memory, every moment you share relies on the truth buried beneath. You think he's a return? You think he came back for you? What does that mean?" Emily's voice quivered with a mixture of hope and dread. The soldier flinched as if struck by the weight of her words. I don't even know who I am." And just then, as thunder rumbled threateningly above, like a warning, the ground jolted again. Clara gasped, realizing the opening had connected them all, not just to memories, but to a force alive with anger and despair, demanding answers. "Wait!" she cried, a new thought attacking her mind like a wave. What if this is all a setup? What if? In that moment, the shadows seemed alive. Shadows filled with questions that sunk deep. Nothing felt certain anymore. She turned back, eyes wide, heart racing. What if none of us really know? It hung in the air, heavy with expectation, the question that might change everything. The storm around them swirled, unanswered and unresolved, leaving them caught in the tension of secrets yet to unfold. The soldier's voice quaked with uncertainty. What if I'm not real? The storm around them seemed to amplify his fear, wind howling like some feral beast. Clara's heart raced, a bomb of dread ticking loudly in her chest. She felt as if the very ground was ready to give way beneath her, and she wasn't sure if she was more afraid of losing him or discovering who he really was. The lightning lit up the sky again, a blinding flash that left everyone momentarily frozen. The woman with the frayed journal stepped closer, urgency radiating off her like heat. You're running out of time! The truth is buried under layers. And it's not just his past you must confront. It's yours too! What does that even mean? Clara breathed, stepping toward the woman, her heart pounding in a desperate rhythm. What have you uncovered? Then, as if the universe just couldn't take it anymore, a terrible sound erupted. A crack like thunder, but so much sharper. The ground beneath them split wide open, a massive gash appearing, threatening to pull them all into its depths. People screamed and scrambled back, fear washing over their faces like cold water. The soldier staggered, eyes wide with panic. This is insane! He glanced at Clara, his voice cracking with desperation. What's happening? What do I do? Stay strong, Clara shouted back. But her own heart was sinking like an anchor. They were tumbling deeper into chaos, spiraling away from the truth they so desperately sought. And that's when a voice rang out above the din, clear and commanding amidst the fray. Stop! The crowd turned, all eyes fixing on a figure emerging from behind a nearby mausoleum. A man dressed in military garb, his expression fierce and resolute. Who are you? Someone shouted. But the man continued unfazed. This needs to end now. You're all walking a path that leads to devastation. He stepped forward, eyes darting across the gathering, landing on Clara. It's about time you showed up. Clara snapped, a mix of relief and frustration coursing through her. What do you know? He exhaled heavily, the weight of secrets dancing on his shoulders. I know what they did, what they've been doing. His voice wavered, revealing raw emotion. The soldier in the casket, he isn't just a replacement. He's a key to everything that was lost. What are you talking about? Clara's heart pounded, each beat echoing her spiraling fear. You have to be clearer. We need to know what's at stake. And that's when the ground trembled again, sending ripples of panic through the crowd. With a deafening roar, the earth seemed to split open further. And out of that chasm, an old wooden box surfaced, covered in dirt and grass. The kind that looked like it hadn't seen the light of day in decades. The air crackled with tension as it landed with a heavy thud at their feet. Open it! The soldier shouted, desperation lending urgency to his voice. No! The woman with the journal cried out, eyes wide. Don't! You don't know what could be inside. Clara hesitated, the weight of many gazes on her. The box loomed large, every moment stretched heavy, alive with expectation. But the soldier's eyes burned with determination, churning with the desire for answers. We have to know, he insisted. It could change everything. Suddenly, without thinking, Clara knelt and grasped the lid. A moment, her fingers brushed the surface. A powerful wave surged through her, so overwhelming it took her breath away. Her eyes widened. It felt like not just wood. That box held remorse. That box held anger unspent. "Wait!" someone shouted again. But it was too late. Clara lifted the lid slowly, her mind racing with possibilities. Inside lay a collection of old, tattered photographs. Moment by moment, all of it tumbling out like secrets too heavy to hold. Her breath caught in her throat as recognition washed over her. Icy fingers wrapping around her heart. That face, it wasn't just familiar. It was her son's face, captured in a photo from decades ago. But beside him stood another figure, a man whose presence felt unsettlingly known. A brother, a twin. Everything she thought she knew fragmented into pieces, scattering like leaves on the wind. Tears stung her eyes as she grasped at the remnants of her shattered reality. "No!" she screamed. "This can't be real!" The world shifted on its axis as the truth shattered around her. The soldier beside her moved closer, confusion playing across his features. "Clara?" he asked, voice filled with apprehension, yet somehow anchored with an unsettling familiarity. "What's happening?" As the storm raged and emotions boiled, it became clear. The truth lay under layers of pain, deeper than any of them imagined. Clara felt her heart race. With deeper ties unravelled, questions loomed larger than ever. Every truth wrapped in the shadows of the past. Did her son have a twin? Who was he really? She wanted to scream, to run, but all she could do was stand there, trembling, eyes locked on the photos, spilling their secrets. What had she uncovered? What foundation was left if everything they knew was either a lie or a half-truth wrapped around memories long buried? Clara staggered back, clutching the photographs like they were shards of glass, ready to cut her to the core. Each captured moment felt unreal. There was her son, alive in the photo, yet clearly gone. The other figure beside him, equally familiar, left her heart pounding in confusion. "Is this my son's twin?" she whispered, voice cracking. Did I lose them both? The weight of unthinkable revelations pressed down on her like a heavy stone threatening to drown her. The soldier's expression morphed from confusion to an overwhelming sense of despair. "But how?" he stammered, eyes wide, fear flashing across his features. "How can this be?" A sudden hush stretched across the crowd. Each face, previously filled with shock, began to process the impact of Clara's discovery. Whispers broke out, a buzz of disbelief and horror, echoing through the wind. This wasn't just a tragic loss. It unravelled a twisted web of deceit that shackled them all. Daniel stepped closer, urgency sparking in his voice. "These photographs! They can't just be memories. They're proof of a deeper connection." He grabbed her arm, the intensity of his grip competing with her racing heart. "You've got to understand, this changes everything." But before she could respond, the wind howled again. A violent burst that felt like the universe itself was protesting the gravity of the moment. And then, at that same moment, the ground beneath them shivered, ominously. It felt almost sentient, a living entity reacting to the truth laid bare. In the tense silence of disbelief, a piercing scream shattered the air. It came from the woman with the journal, her eyes wide with dread. "Stop! Don't touch those pictures!" She lunged forward, as if to claim them back. But her momentum sent her sprawling, hitting the ground hard. "Why?" Emily called out, panic lacing her voice. "What do you know that we don't?" The woman struggled back to her feet, panting, her face a mask of horror. "You don't understand! Those aren't just memories! They hold the key to something you should never have found!" Her eyes darted toward the sky, as if seeking the answers in the storm above, breathless and frantic. But she didn't get a chance to explain further. In a shocking turn, the wooden box exploded in a shower of dust and debris, sending everyone stumbling back. The swirling particles spiraled around them, shrouding the air in a claustrophobic haze. As the dust settled, a new presence emerged. A figure stepped forth from the darkness of the storm. A woman, cloaked in shadows, eyes blazing like embers. She seemed to pulse with energy that crackled through the air, commanding attention. "You've meddled where you should not," she shouted, voice both powerful and chilling. "What do you mean?" Clara nearly gasped, confusion striking her again. Fear gripped the crowd tighter than ever. The woman snapped her fingers, and a chaos of memories rushed forth like a tidal wave, sweeping through Clara's mind as she staggered back. Images flashed vividly, battles fought, sacrifices made, but most shocking of all, a secret buried in her own heart. A truth so devastating it felt like a knife thrust through the very fabric of her being. "You've all been puppets," the woman continued, weaving through the awe-struck faces. "The soldier you thought was lost, he was never meant to exist. He was created to fill a void." In that moment, Clara felt the world tilt dangerously. "Created? What are you saying?" A lump formed in her throat, raw and heavy. The woman's piercing gaze locked onto Clara. "You do not remember, but you were part of this. You made the choice out of love, out of fear. You sealed his fate." With those words, the ground beneath Clara felt like quicksand, pulling her deeper. The truth about her past slammed into her heart like a freight train, leaving her gasping for breath, feeling as if the earth had crumbled beneath her. The soldier beside her, the twin brother, the clone, the true secret of her son's demise, was all tangled in this web. She realized then that the truth was far darker than she had imagined. And just like that, the entire foundation of their lives hung by a fraying thread, overshadowed by secrets best left buried. The air crackled, a storm brewing not just above, but within them. All of them. Clara knew this was only the beginning. A revelation so deep and cutting would prompt questions none of them were prepared to face. What if all of this was a setup? She croaked, voice trembling with fear and hope. Would they plunge deeper into the chaos, or would the emerging truth tear them apart like the storm above? As doubt hung thick in the air, the world swirled with uncertainty, leaving them moments away from a profound realization. T. I'm not real. The words tumbled from him like gravel, each syllable heavy with disbelief. Clara's heart raced, a wild tempo against the backdrop of the swirling storm. This was getting too much to bear. The air felt electric, charged with secrets ready to burst forth. As the woman with the journal began to explain, the rain started to fall harder, each drop hammering against the ground like a countdown ticking away. "Listen! You're all part of something bigger!" she shouted, her voice almost drowning in the chaos. "The truth has to come out, and I—" Before she could finish, a blinding flash of lightning illuminated the cemetery, splitting the sky like it was made of glass. Ominous shadows danced, and the earth seized beneath them again, rumbling ominously. Clara stumbled, gripping the edge of the casket as panic twisted her gut. "Get back!" Daniel yelled, his eyes darting nervously around them. Everyone took a step back, the tension rising like hot air. But then the soldier, a stranger in so many ways, stood firm, pleading with them with wide, trembling eyes. "Stop! I want to know the truth!" His voice cut through the noise, desperate yet firm. Suddenly, as if in direct response to his shout, a massive crack echoed. The air rippled around them, and the ground heaved violently. Clara felt the jolt in her bones. A sensation rippling through the crowd. And then, out of nowhere, a figure emerged from the depths of the darkness. At first, it was difficult to recognize them through the shadows. But as the figure stepped into the light, Clara's breath caught in her throat. This was a face she never expected to see again. It was her son. "Mom?" His voice wavered, torn between joy and disbelief. Clara's heart thudded heavily in her chest, an unending rush of emotions mounting as she stood paralyzed in shock. "No, it can't be!" The words slipped out like a broken record, repeating her denial. "You died! I buried you!" She felt as if the ground was falling away. "Reality breaking apart in a million pieces! It's me!" he pleaded, his eyes wide, filled with a mixture of longing and desperation. "I'm back! But things aren't what they seem. It's all a lie. You have to believe me." The crowd gasped, confusion morphing to grief and disbelief. Whispers shot through the audience like knives, carving away any certainty they had left. This was the very son they had mourned, the soldier they had lost. Yet, how was he standing there now, drenched in rain and shadows? "Mom, please, I need you to listen." He reached for her, but she stumbled back, hands trembling at her sides, the memories clawing at her throat. The woman with the journal shouted, "No, this is impossible! How can he be here? You don't understand." Her panic heightened, spilling into the helplessness of the crowd. Then the soldier, once a mere shadow, stepped closer, dread creeping into his features. "What's happening? Am I—" Before he could finish, Clara turned sharply to him, fear pouring through her. "Who are you really?" she demanded, her voice thin yet edged with a fierce determination. The moment felt frozen in time. Everything crashed together. The memories of loss, of grief, and now this madness of hope. And the storm raged above. But just as the tension peaked, and faces twisted in confusion and uncertainty. Another blinding flash of lightning cracked through the sky, roaring with a fury that resonated in their bones. A signal, an awakening of truths they never wanted to confront. Then came an explosion, a sound so powerful it felt like the earth had split apart. Clara shielded her eyes as the box disintegrated, sending shards flying. The force knocked everyone off balance. For a split second, an intense surge of energy filled the air, and within that blinding chaos, time seemed to stand still. As Clara gasped for breath, she caught a glimpse of something impossible. Fiery tendrils, vivid as life itself, coiled around the remains of the box, illuminating secrets they weren't ready to face. "Mum, don't!" Her son's voice echoed through the haze, but it was too late. The truth was unleashed. Reality twisted under the weight of revelations, shattering everything they believed. As dust filled the air, Clara felt her world tilt dangerously. And in that moment, the relationships that held her together began to splinter. Her son was alive, yet she feared the very foundation of who they were. The crowd gasped collectively, trapped in a storm of raw emotions, spiraling toward an unknown fate. "What have we unleashed?" Clara barely whispered, her heart pounding. Her eyes flickered back to the soldier and her son, whose destinies intertwined, leaving her standing at the precipice of a revelation, unsure of what would emerge from the shadows. Clara stood frozen, heart pounding. Her son was alive, but so many questions swirled in her mind. "What does this mean?" she whispered, her hands trembling as she clutched the photographs closer. "What really happened?" The soldier stepped forward, eyes wide with longing and fear. "I don't remember anything. I just woke up in that casket." His voice cracked, a flood of confusion spilling from his lips. The woman with the journal moved towards them, urgency radiating from her. "You all deserve the truth, but understanding it will shatter everything you thought you knew." Her voice trembled, a mix of fear and responsibility. "This isn't just about one life. It's about all of you." Rain pelted down, heavy, like the emotions pressing upon them. Clara felt the grasp of despair tighten around her chest. "I lost my son once. I can't lose him again." "Mum," the soldier's voice, shaky but filled with hope, cut through her thoughts. "If I'm the twin, if I was made to fill a space, what does that say about who I am?" A hush fell over the crowd, the tension thick enough to cut. Eyes darted between Clara and the soldier, unsure, seeking answers they couldn't grasp. Daniel stepped in, hands raised. "Wait! We can't ignore the truth! This is bigger than all of us!" From the shadows, the woman shouted again. "You think he's just a replacement? You don't get it!" Her voice reverberated, demanding attention. There were secrets, yes, but within those shadows lay hope for all of you. "Hope?" Emily echoed, voice trembling. "How can this ever feel like hope?" The soldier turned to her, desperation etched on his face. "I'm still here. I still feel. I know I'm supposed to be part of this family." The words spilled out like a dam breaking. Clara's heart fluttered. Maybe there was truth in that. Maybe he could rebuild what was broken. The crowd shifted, exchanging glances filled with doubt, horror, and tenderness. Then, with a crack of lightning that lit their faces with stark clarity, Clara found her voice. "Then you fight for it. We fight together." The energy shifted. The crowd nodded, an unspoken understanding blooming in the air. Family wasn't dictated by blood alone. It was about connection, choice, and love. As the storm raged on, hope flickered in the faces around them. The fear transforming into determination. They were not just figures in a tragic play. They were a family standing at the edge of possibility. "Together," Clara encouraged, her voice steady. "We will uncover the truth, no matter how painful." For the first time, the soldier smiled, a spark igniting in his eyes. "Then let's figure this all out together." In that moment, as thunder rolled above, the storm began to feel less menacing. They took a small step forward, an emblem of their new journey. But deep inside, Clara knew this was just the beginning. What truths lay beneath the surface? What shadows still loomed? The storm continued, swirling unpredictably, leaving a sense of mystery lingering in the air. And with that lingering sense of hope, a voice broke through the silence, a mix of challenge and urgency, echoing through the hearts of everyone present. "Hey, if you want to know what comes next, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to keep this going. Flood the comments with your theories. What do you think will happen to Clara and her family? And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends. They need to know this outcome." As they stood together, enveloped by the storm and the weight of their shared truth, they knew the journey ahead would shape them all. Together and forever.